Republicans in the United States House of Representatives have narrowly passed a massive $1.15 trillion military spending package.
You could almost say this is a takeover. Benjamin Netanyahu, he'll have the ability to direct the U.S. military. I mean, it's mind-boggling when you think about it.
What blows my mind is that a lot of Americans don't actually seem bothered.
100 years ago, Nikola Tesla discovered a healing technology that threatened the entire pharmaceutical industry. The day he died, the government seized everything. For 100 years, this technology was hidden. Until now, plasma is back. Tesla Club, tzla.club.
US House passes $1.15 trillion military bill expanding Israel cooperation. Is it even possible to expand it? Well, apparently so. Republicans in the United States House of Representatives have narrowly passed a massive $1.15 trillion military spending package despite concerns from Democrat lawmakers over the price tag and enhanced military technology collaboration with Israel. 1.15 trillion. That's for a year. That's just for 2027. Now, we're obviously told every 5 minutes that, peace is close. It's just round the corner. We're having some negotiations with the Iranians. We're off to Pakistan on a jolly and all the rest of it. Yet they're allocating 1.15 trillion for war next year. Bearing in mind they've been at war all this year and the package was less than $1 trillion. I mean, it's still monopoly money, obviously. And all of this is while 40 million, around about 40 million, which is nearly 15% of the country, live in poverty. That's not just haven't got a lot of money to have a beer on a weekend, literally living in poverty. But they can find 1.15 trillion for bombs. There's always money for war, isn't there? And that's all of us. The British are the same. The bill passed in the House on Wednesday by a margin of 216 to 212, largely adhering to party lines, with the exception of 6 Democrats who voted in favour. Love to know how much money they've received from AIPAC, few quid, and 7 Republicans who opposed it. Now, with all the pieces of legislation, Britain included, the world included, every piece of legislation that passes through any parliament or any house or whatever in any nation in the world, it's all about the small print. They will present certain elements to you whilst trying to get people not to focus on other elements of the legislation because once it's through, right? Now, here is former Congressman Dennis Nukanich, if I've said that right, probably not, this is me, who has actually read the bill in its entirety.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has taken credit for the legislation that was put into the National Defense Authorization Act of 2027. He basically said, yeah, this is what I want. Well, he wants it because he'll have the ability to direct the U.S. military. I mean, it's mind-boggling when you think about it. And this particular proposal, by the way it's structured, and when I first heard about it, I said, I have to read the legislation because let me tell you, folks who are watching, you have to read the legislation in order to understand its workings. And the way this is written, it puts the Department of Defense in the driver's seat over other federal departments, including state. And then this policy it runs through the whole government. This really, you could almost say this is a takeover. For some it'll sound hysterical, but the truth is that it is laying the groundwork for an entanglement that has never happened in the history of the United States. This is totally unprecedented.
Kucinich, that was his name. That's why it passed. Of course, that was the bit of small print that they didn't really want you focused too much on as an American citizen, but was the driving force behind the whole bill. It was never going to be allowed not to pass with that in it. Final vote total for the NDAA today, which tragically merges our military technology and supply chains with Israel's. Republican Representative Thomas Massie, who has clashed with the White House and has been a vocal critic of the war on Iran, said in a social media post responding to the vote. Now, Thomas Massie, whatever people think of Thomas Massie, because at the end of the day, he is a politician, he has been consistent, and he's been consistently the only one really that stands up to Israel, and the only one really that stood up and demanded and actually passed legislation to get the Epstein files released, legislation that was ignored by the Trump administration, but it's okay when we do it. And of course, those two things, standing up to Israel and demanding the full unredacted release of the Epstein files, are intrinsically linked. And that's why Miriam Adelson and others spent a record amount of money to unseat Thomas Massie. They spent millions and millions and millions on basically a Republican primary just to try and get rid of him. And they didn't do it fairly either. I mean, not that you should be, Israel firsters should be dual citizens as well, by the way, should be handing over millions and millions and millions to affect a election in America, but that happens constantly anyway. Now, this is a post from a guy called Patrick Webb, because Thomas Massie lost that primary in Kentucky. And so at the end of this round, he essentially will be unseated, although whether he stands as an independent rather than a Republican, I don't know. Only he knows an answer to that. But this is a post from Patrick Webb. Older voters in Kentucky's 4th congressional district admit to being tricked by AI-generated ads falsely depicting Thomas Massie in a throuple with Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar, with the ads influencing their vote per exit poll. So what they were basically doing when Thomas Massie was calling for the full release of the Epstein files, when he was standing against the war in Iran, Israel's war on Iran, they basically tried to link him with very unpopular Democrats, very unpopular among voters in Kentucky, basically saying he's with them. And that influenced their vote. Well, it's too late now. The vote's gone through. Now, I interviewed Patrick Henningsen of the 21st Century Wire not that long ago about this and how Israel were using AI to essentially influence elections in France. Now, if they've done it here in Kentucky, they've provably done it in France using, AI, again, manipulated images and manipulated videos and the rest of it. They'd be doing it everywhere, mate. They're not just going to go, do you know what, we'll use one district in America and a few elections in the south of France. We won't do the rest of the world. I think you will. Who needs enemies when you've got allies like this? Greatest allies. Let's hope this version fails in the Senate, because Section 219 is a betrayal of our sovereignty, said Thomas Massie. The 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, is a reflection of President Trump's request for an enormous increase in the country's already unmatched military budget, seeking to boost spending from, this is honestly, all I can think of is the little Monopoly guy with the crazy tash and the monocle at this point. Boost from 900 billion last year. I mean, where do you even begin with that kind of, oh no, what am I saying? 900 billion. Where do you even begin with that kind of money? To 1.15 trillion this year. Like I say, this is why where 15% of Americans are living in abject poverty. But it actually gets even more sinister than this. As Thomas Massie posted on X just before it went to the vote, a vote that we all knew was going to pass because they wouldn't allow it not to. This is what he posted. Unfortunately, the rule passed just now, and no debate or vote was allowed, obviously, on Section 119, integration of US military technology and supply chains with Israel's. So before it went to the vote, people like Massie, they might not necessarily have disagreed with certain elements of the bill, but there were certain elements, certainly this Section 219, that they massively disagreed with. So it wasn't just Massey. There was others that were basically saying, well, let's have a debate on this bit's okay. Let's have a debate on this bit so we can try and amend it. Maybe take that bit out, still give Trump 1.15 trillion to bomb elementary schools or whatever. That's fine. But let's take this bit out. And they wouldn't allow the debate on it because they don't. This is how democracy in the land of the free and in Britain, that's how it works. If you don't want to have scrutiny on anything, just don't talk about it. Don't allow it to be debated. Don't allow it to come to the floor. So now the US military, which basically already adheres to Israel anyway, let's have it right. They're in a war with Iran because Israel wants them to be. And if you go even further back and you look at the war in Iraq and all the rest of it, the weapons of mass destruction, all that stuff came from Benjamin Netanyahu, from the Jonathan Institute, which is named after his brother, and came from Israel anyway. So it's all well and good blaming George W. Bush and blaming Tony Blair and the sexed up dossier and Alistair Campbell and all the rest of it. And of course, they absolutely deserve to be blamed. But those original claims, very similar to Iran is 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon, those claims came out of Israel. So Israel has basically been in control of the US military anyway. But now it's essentially merged with them. It's basically cutting out the middleman. So it's almost like Israel and Netanyahu, they don't need to come to America and stand in Congress and lobby and push and lie to get the US military involved in stuff. They can basically just do it anyway because the two of them are merged. Now I know, because I'm talking about Israel in this will be shadow banned to hell. And I've got a series of stories today, which are all very interesting actually, and all rather important. And I thought to myself, you know what? Whichever one I put as the lead story, the main story that we put out on social media, whichever one I pick will determine how many people see this. Now, I know that this is the worst one for that. But then you get into that position where you go, well, do I shut up and edit myself? Or do I just speak the truth and speak about stuff they don't want me to speak about and let the chips fall where they may? Well, I'll choose that one because I refuse to shut up. Because as soon as you start shutting yourself up, you're gone. As soon as they don't need to censor you anymore because you censor yourself, it's curtains, mate. It's finished. So this will get seen by one man and a dog, and, well, so be it. Now, of course, recently, Netanyahu came out and because the US taxpayer have been funding the Israeli military for decades and decades and decades to the tune of billions and billions every single year. But recently, Benjamin Netanyahu came out saying that essentially Israel didn't need that military funding anymore. They didn't need that money from Americans. Keep it, spend it on poverty, spend it on homelessness, all the rest of it. Well, it makes sense now, doesn't it? Because he doesn't need it. Because he's got your military. He's got the American military. So he doesn't actually need them to send him money to bolster his own military anymore. He's got yours. So then you have to ask yourself, who's going to be calling the shots? Because as the former, congressman whose name I butchered earlier has said, this is essentially putting Israel potentially in charge of the American military. So in which case, is it going to be Israel sending Americans to die in the future? Are the orders to go to war going to be coming from Tel Aviv? I mean, they have been anyway. But like I say, you suddenly just cut out the middleman. You cut out the lobbying. You cut out the propaganda. You cut out all of that stuff. You can literally just go, you go. But what blows my mind about this whole thing, given the fact that it is taking away American sovereignty, it's taking away Americans' full control over their own military. What blows my mind is that a lot of Americans don't actually seem bothered. Not really. They don't really see it as a big deal that their military is being merged with a foreign nation. Doesn't seem to bother them. Bearing in mind it's being merged with a foreign nation that has actually attacked them in the past. USS Liberty, for instance. It's claimed that 9/11 was good for them. It was essentially a good day for Israel. they've been caught spying on and undermining the US government for decades, and very recently was caught undermining their peace talks with Iran so that the peace couldn't prevail, and so the war would continue, which has killed yet more American soldiers, another 4 American soldiers killed just in the last 48 hours. So that's the nation that you're handing essentially military control to. But what the joke is if these people here were voting on merging the US national basketball team with the Israel basketball team, there'd probably be riots. If they were debating whether they should integrate the US Olympic team or the US Winter Olympic team with the Israelis, people would be on the streets. And maybe when they see more Americans dying at the behest of Israel, they might oppose it then. But the ink will be dry on it, and it will be too late.
In 1943, the government seized Nikola Tesla's most dangerous invention, a healing technology that threatened Big Pharma's entire empire. They buried it for 100 years, but it's back, and over 1,000 people worldwide are using it right now. When you join Tesla Club, you get your own Tesla plasma device, 5 times more powerful than the original Violet Ray and built to last. You join a private Telegram group where members share breakthroughs daily. Stroke recoveries, cancer reversals, chronic pain gone in minutes. These aren't stories. These are yesterday's posts. You get lifetime support from people who've been where you are. Technical guidance, therapeutic protocols, a group that actually understands. And you get access to hundreds of documented experiments, real members, real results, real transformations. No prescriptions, no waiting for permission, no begging doctors who don't believe you. Just you, your machine, and a movement taking health sovereignty back. We're Tesla Club, private science club for self-directed healing. Visit tzla.club. Join the revolution.
Plasma. It's back.
Don't mention the reptiles, Dave.
Even less is said about the Grey Pope, who some believe to be the true ruling power in the Vatican.
Humans emitting a MAC address.
All of them had Bluetooth signals.
I've never seen it before.
Queuing up to transition their children.
This is the ultimate suicide cult.
What if the symbols around us every day aren't just ornamental?
We lost 1,000 years of history.
What if they're instruction?
That state of awareness is not manipulatable.